Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 141 of the All Dolphins podcast, a bonus episode on this Tuesday morning, November 28th. Yes.
Yes, it is the 28th,
Yeah,
but I'm
2020.
more focused on how you're going to entertain us with the number 41. Curious.
Yeah, because I have some people in the comments from yesterday's show telling me it has to be Keith Byers and he would make sense, but I'm pretty sure in the first go around, that's who I addressed. Of course, he of the 77-yard touchdown run on Thanksgiving Day, 1993, the Snow Angel, and then the falling out with head coach Don Shula, which led to his being waived, I want to say, and then joining the New England Patriots and Bill Parcells. So cool. Instead, I'm going to go with Fulton Walker, whose claim to fame was a defensive back from West Virginia. Claim to fame was he returned the kickoff for a touchdown for the Dolphins in a Super Bowl, the one after the 1982 season when they lost to the Washington, who were then known as the Redskins, 27-17. And look, I did a little tie-in without even realizing it because the Dolphins play at Washington on Sunday.
How about okay. That? I never heard of that dude, but props to you.
Okay. Again, as I mentioned, this is a bonus episode because we want to discuss the news of the Dolphins signing veteran defensive end pass rusher Jason Pierre-Paul off the New Orleans Saints practice squad. And the obvious question, Omar, is: are you down with JPP?
Yeah, you know me. He is. I think it's a good signing. It makes sense from a veteran standpoint. I'm pretty sure it's for the veteran minimum for whatever's prorated for the final 6 games.
6 games.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm not a mathematician. What I like about him is 94 and a half sacks, 14-year veteran, has seen a lot of football, has probably forgotten more football than young players know. I think he's scheme diverse. He's played most of his career, actually the back end of his career, in a 3-4 scheme, which is similar to what Miami runs and utilizes. Did it in Tampa Bay, did it in Baltimore. Began the first half of his career in a 4-3 scheme. I think he can help you from a pass rushing standpoint. And what this does, I still view Andrew Van Ginkel as probably the player that is going to be the opposite of the outside linebacker, opposite of Bradley Chubb. But now on third downs, this gives you the opportunity to have Jason Pierre-Paul as just a straight pass rusher on the field, and then put Andrew Van Ginkel back into the nickel inside linebacker package, where I think he's played relatively well. It does give you a little bit more diversity to your schemes in terms of who you can blitz and pressure, because you can now blitz both inside linebackers. Jerome Baker's a pretty good blitzer, and then Andrew Van Ginkel. I think they played well together. And, who does this hurt? It hurts Emmanuel Ogbah, just from the standpoint of this is a guy who, has been begging to play, being patient. And now you've got a guy who's coming in here, and because of his pass rushing prowess and how dominant he has been as a pass rusher, he'll probably leapfrog you on the depth chart because you're not that good at dropping back in coverage. And that's really what's keeping you from playing.
You stole my thunder, because that's the point. That's the big point I was going to make. Is that, man, I know, rude. Maybe I should have told you that before we tape. Let me have this point here. Anyway, it's all good. That I don't think it affects how the Dolphins are going to utilize Andrew Van Ginkel in the least. I think this guy's snap count is going to join like the core guys on defense, like the Christian Wilkins, the Zach Sealers, and all those guys, all the non-DBs who play practically every down or close to it. And then Van Ginkel had games where his snap count was, I think the highest may have been like 80% or something like that. I think he's going to be there now regularly because of that's what he's earned based on the way he performed earlier in the season when he was given an elevated role. I think this, I don't want to say destroys, is a strong word, but I think this clearly affects Emmanuel Ogbah. And I go back to my earlier take, which is that I wasn't sure from the beginning that, even though the talking point was immediately, well, yeah, it's more playing time for AVG and for Ogbah, but the truth is, in the 3 games that Jalen Phillips missed earlier in the season, Emmanuel Ogbah's snap count wasn't necessarily that high. So I think for whatever reason, I think scheme fits obviously the clear one. He just never really necessarily had a significant role in this defense. And basically, this is a guy who was perfect, as I said this many times, Brian Flores, I mean, squeezed like all the juice out of what you can get out of maximizing Emmanuel Agba's skill set. His scheme was perfect for Emmanuel Agba, and Dick Fangio's not so much.
No, not so much. I give Emmanuel credit because despite his limited snaps on defense, he still got 4 sacks, still has an interception. You could say whether it was in garbage time or not, he's still producing. I know this is probably I think he's going to get a fair opportunity to earn his playing time. I think that's how they practice. And you know how Mike McDaniel is. He's trying to give everybody a little carrot to dangle and motivate them. So while Jason Pierre-Paul begins to learn this defense and get comfortable in it, and we don't know what kind of condition he's in. He's only played in 1 NFL game this season after being a late signee, missing training camp. Props to him for continuing and want to play. 14 seasons is a lot of seasons. The last guy I remember who played 14 seasons was Brent Grimes, and he did a bulk of that because he had some practice squad seasons early in his career and then finally started playing. Jason Pierre-Paul has played every season except for the season that he had that hand incident with some fireworks. But it'll be interesting to see what he can do and how he can add to this defense. But to me, this is another more evidence of the we're all into this season. And I fully support it because the question that I have is right now you're a number 7 defense and you're trending up. And when you watched, like I just rewatched the game last night against the Jets, and man, was Jalen Phillips. That might have been his best NFL game ever that he got hurt in. And that's going to be a hard player to replace because his elevation and his effectiveness was a contributing factor to why you were turning up the volume on the defense. It just wasn't Jalen Ramsey. Man, we got a lot of Jalen's on this team. It just wasn't
Jalen Waddle either.
Yeah. It just wasn't Jalen Ramsey's return or X's getting healthy. No, it was everybody. And Jalen Phillips was a major factor in how they were playing and being as dominant as they were. Now, the hope is that they can continue that trend. They're a top 10 defense now. That was my expectation at the beginning of the season when they started with Vic Fangio. And now that they're finally there, I don't expect them to drop off in the least bit. And hopefully that is consistent.
No, and I'll be honest with you, and I hope this is not seen as a shot or me trying to downplay how great of a player Jalen Ramsey is because he's a complete stud. But I'm seeing too much of the narrative of, well, the Dolphins defense really picked up once Jalen Ramsey came back. That's one factor, but there are also a lot of other factors. And one of those is that Jalen Phillips got healthy after playing with a lot of different things early on. And I'm gonna take a mea culpa here. He was actually a lot more dominant this year once he got right than I actually thought he was. Because my thing was, and I said this in training camp, I wasn't exactly sure what his ceiling was. The way he was playing, it was exceeding my expectations for him. I mean, he was balling, which makes his injury even more sucky, as it wasn't sucky enough as it is. And the thing with JPP also is,
you know me.
I'm done with JPP. It's low risk, high reward. He had like 3 sacks in 13 games or 14 games with Baltimore last year. You're not getting second year JPP when he made the Pro Bowl, helped the Giants win the Super Bowl. He's not that guy anymore, but he adds depth. And if he reduces the workload on like AVG, we want AVG snap count to go up because of how productive he's been. You would also don't want to overtax him. And this provides you another option to go along with Emmanuel Agba to do that, that defender. So it's a really, really good move. And it was going to be him, or obviously the word is they put in a claim for Derek Barnett, who would have been a cheaper alternative, not quite the same resume as JPP, but it would have been a good pickup. Houston picked him up. This is a young team. And with Houston, it wouldn't surprise me if they wound up signing him beyond this year. Whereas with the Dolphins, chances, Derek Barnett's 27 years old, dude. And it's not like he's not going to command a huge contract on the open market. So
True. That's fair.
Okay.
I mean, and the Dolphins can very well carry JPP into his 15th NFL season. We don't know. He might, because he's already a South Florida native. He lives down here, so he might just want to latch on and continue this ride to take him into next season. So
He better not ask for a ton of money, because the Dolphins don't have a lot of money to give
oh,
away.
brother, they ain't got no money.
Correct. Is he going to be willing to pick
And
up sorry, go ahead.
I think he's more of a, a guy who's extending his career because he enjoys football, likes football, and certainly it's easier money to make than actually, getting a real job or day trading every day. So props to him. 14 seasons, that's a major accomplishment, and hopefully this season will give him an opportunity to finish strong. My only concern is, and I get it, he's an aged old veteran, probably didn't want to do training camp, but why enter the NFL at midseason?
Well, there may have been a demand for him, or a situation that he wanted, and this is, again, the Saints are in contention for the NFC South, not because they're good, because the division sucks, and now this is even better for him because he goes to a team that's got potential Super Bowl aspirations, and he goes from the practice squad to the active roster. So and in his home area, so it's perfect for him. I would be more inclined to believe it's going to be like a Melvin Ingram type of situation, one and done. But doesn't matter. We're talking about this season now. And again, if it turns out that he doesn't pan out, again, I'm pretty sure they're signing him for the veteran minimum. So it's low risk, high reward, and I think it's a very solid move. So, on that note, that's going to wrap it up, our mini bonus episode. Remember, we're going to have Behind Enemy Lines with Rooster today, talking Washington Commanders. Chris Russell.
I can't call a grown man Rooster. I just
we'll see when we have him on. We'll see. Anyway, right. Chris Russell, he's a radio talk show host from Washington's covered the Commanders / Redskins before that for a long time. So until then, thanks for watching. Omar, we'll talk later.
All right.